Welcome to the Founding Files. Imagine a boy, not yet a man, riding on horseback through the dry hills of Macedonia. His name Alexander, just Alexander. No one knew yet that this young prince would soon become one of the most feared, respected, and legendary generals in human history. Before Julius Caesar, before Napoleon, before Genghis Khan, there was Alexander the Great. But what made him great was it his unmatched military skill, his lightning speed victories, his fearless courage, or maybe the way he changed the world forever. Today we take you back over 2300 years to uncover the true story of the man who never lost a battle from his early days as a student of Aristotle to leading armies across deserts, mountains, and rivers. His life reads like a legend, but it already happened. This is not just history, this is the beginning of an epic journey of strategy, blood, ambition, and glory. So sit tight because for the next 15 minutes you are not just watching a video, you are marching with Alexander, sword in hand, eyes on the horizon, ready to conquer the unknown world. He was born in 305 6 BC in the ancient city of Pella, the capital of Macedonia. His father, King Philip II, was a brilliant warrior king. His mother, Olympias, believed her son was destined for greatness. Some even say she told Alexander he was the son of a god, but before he picked up a sword, Alexander picked up a book. He was taught by none other than Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers of all time. Imagine learning philosophy, science, and strategy from the man who helped shape Western thought. But Alexander was not just a thinker, he was a fighter from a young age. He trained in weapons, war, tactics, and riding. At age 12, he tamed a wild horse no one else could control. That horse, Butlef, would ride with him into battle for years to come. He was not just preparing to be a king, he was preparing to be a legend. At 16, he was already leading troops. At 20, after his father was assassinated, he became king. Many thought the younger ruler would crumble. Instead, he crushed rebellions, united Greece, and set his sights east to the mighty Persian Empire, a mission that would stretch thousands of miles and chart the world map forever. The boy king was now ready to make history. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont with about 40,000 soldiers. Behind him was Greece, united but restless. In front him stood the vast Persian Empire, ruled by King Darius III, who commanded hundreds of thousands. Alexander did not blink. His first real test came at the Battle of the Granicus River. Persian commanders lined the river banks with cavalry, waiting to crush the young invader. Most generals would hesitate. Alexander charged. He led the attack himself, riding straight into the river. Water rushing past, his horse legs arose flying around him. At one point, a Persian soldier raised a sword over Alexander's head. He was just inches from death until a loyal bodyguard cut the attacker down. Alexander survived. He routed the Persians, and just like that, the myth began. He did not fight from behind the lines, he led from the front. That's what made his men love him. They did not see a king, they saw a warrior right beside them in the blood and chaos. After that battle, cities began to surrender without a fight. News of the fearless Macedonian spread fast, but this was just the beginning. The Persians were regrouping, a bigger battle was coming and Alexander was ready. It was 333 BC. Alexander pushed deeper into Persian territory. The land grew hotter, harsh, more dangerous. Then came the moment the world had been waiting for: Alexander versus Darius, king versus king. At a battle of issues, the Persian army outnumbered Alexander by at least 2 to 1. Darius had brought everything: war chariots, elite god archers, 10,000 of men. Most generals would fall back. Alexander, he smiled. He saw an opportunity. The battlefield was narrow, wedged between mountains and sea, a perfect place to trap a massive army. Alexander knew exactly what he was doing. As the Persian line stretched too thin, he stuck fast, cutting deep into their center, and then did the unthinkable. He headed straight for Darius, the great king. Panicked, he turned his chariot and ran. Just like that, the Persian line broke. Their king had abandoned them. It was more than a win, it was a message. Alexander was not just some rebel general, he was a storm, and nothing could stop him. After the battle, he found Darius' tent. Inside were gold, silk, and even Darius' family. Alexander did not harm them, he treated them with respect. Even in victory, he showed mercy to his enemies. This was terrifying. To his men, it was unforgettable. After defeating Darius at Issues, Alexander did not chase him, not yet. Instead, he turned south, marching along the Mediterranean coast. City after city opened its gates. He was not just conquering land, he was reshaping the world. In 332 BC, he entered Egypt, a land of mystery. Pyramid and ancient god, but Alexander did not come as a destroyer. He came as a liberator. The Egyptians and live under Persian rule for years. When they saw Alexander, they did not resist. They welcomed him. They called him Pharaoh. They believed he was sent by the gods, and maybe Alexander started to believe it too. He traveled deep into the desert to visit the oracle of Siva, an ancient temple of the god Ammon, Egypt's version of Zeus. No one knows exactly what was said inside the temple, but when Alexander walked out, something had changed. He did not just believe he had the right to rule, he believed he was destined to. He even started calling himself the son of Zeus Ammon. To his men, he was still their general, but to others, he was becoming something more, something divine. While in Egypt, he founded a new city, Alexandria, a city of learning, trade, and power, a city that still stands today. Alexander was no longer just marching through history, he was writing it. Now the world held its breath. It was 331 BC. Alexander had conquered the eastern Mediterranean. He had taken Egypt, he had crushed Darius' armies twice, but the Darius was not done. He raised a new army, the biggest he had ever assembled, over 2 lakh soldiers, war elephants, elite cavalry, chariots with blade on their wheels. He chose the battlefield of place called Gongol, where the open ground for a massive army to move. He wanted no surprise. This time, this was the Persian Empire's last stand, and Alexander knew it. His men were outnumbered again, some say 5 to 1, but they trusted him. They had followed him across rivers, deserts, and empires. And on that night before the battle, Alexander did not sleep. He walked among his men. He spoke to them not as a king but as a brother. He reminded them, "You have faced greater odds and won. Tomorrow will be no too different." As dawn rose, the battlefield stretched for miles. Darius' army looked endless, and yet Alexander smiled. He had a plan, a trap. He let the Persians move forward, then swept his cavalry in a sudden sharp angle to right. The Persians followed, stretching their line just as planned. That's when Alexander struck right through the middle, straight toward Darius again. It was just dust, streams, swords, blood, but through it all, Alexander kept pushing until Darius turned and ran again. The mighty king of Persia fled for his life, leaving his army to crumble. Gamaliel was over. Persia was finished. The ancient world would never be the same with one battle. Alexander did not just with an empire, he became the most powerful man on earth. Babylon surrendered. Susa opened its gates. Persepolis, the Persian capital, fell. The treasure there was no great. It looked to thousands of mules and camels to carry it away, but more than gold. Alexander had something else now. Total domination. He had done what no one had dreamed possible. A young man from Macedonia had just ended one of the oldest empires in history, but the story did not stop there. Alexander was not satisfied. His eyes turned further east toward the edge of the world. After Camilla, Alexander was not a king, he was a legend alive. The Persian Empire was gone. Babylon, Persepolis, and every city between them had bowed. But Alexander did not stop. He could not. He wanted more. He wanted the ends of the earth. He marked it behind the border of any Greek map into land on Macedonia had overseen. Through scorching deserts, freezing mountains, and thick jungles, his army followed. They crossed into modern day Afghanistan, then pushed into India. There was they faced powerful kingdoms and fires war elephants. In 326 BC, at the Battle of the Hydaspes, Alexander fought one of his hardest battles against King Porus, a warrior who refused to back down. Even after defeating Porus, Alexander did not kill him. He was so impressed by his bravery, he made him an ally. That was who Alexander was, ruthless but also respectful. A warrior, but with the mind of a philosopher. Still, his men were tired. They had followed him for years. They missed home. They were done chasing shadows on the edge of the world. In the burning heat of India, they refusing to go further. And for first time, Alexander listened. He turned back, but the return was brutal. Thousands died crossing the Jedrosian desert, hunger, thirst, disease. Alexander survived, but he had changed. He had conquered the world, but lost many friends. His closest companion, Hippias, died, and Alexander heart broke. By the time he returned to Babylon, he was only 32 years old, a king of kings, a god of some, a mortal to others. Then suddenly he fell ill. No one knows why. Some say poison, some say fever, some say the weight of the world finally caught up with him. For 11 days he lay dying, and when his generals asked who will inherit your empire, he whispered to the strongest, and just like that he was gone. But Alexander never truly died. His name lived on, his city stood for centuries, his battles are still studied, his ambition which still inspires. He took a small kingdom in Greece and reshaped the world, not with gold, not with politics, with vision, with courage, with fire. Today, more than 2000 years later, people will still ask, was the greatest general in history? Maybe, but one thing is certain, there has never been another like him. Thank you for watching the Founding Files. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of Alexander the Great, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have more stories coming.